afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I am Susie Barry, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. And we're done. No. So, good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I am Susie Barry, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. And on behalf of my colleagues on the board, Joe Pato, Michelle Sicolo, Doug Lucente, and Jill Hay. Jill is out of town, so she's not with us today. Welcome. We have quite a large crowd here today, and we thank you for joining with us as we recognize and celebrate Carl Valente's nearly 40 years in public service. But before we begin, I have a little bit of housekeeping to do to keep the fire department happy. In the event of a fire alarm, please walk towards the nearest exit and leave the building. The Lexington Fire Department will respond, and they are also here, and inform the public when it's safe to re-enter the premises. Please take time now to identify your nearest exit. Again, and oxygen will not drop from the ceiling. That wasn't included in the renovation. Second, please be sure to help yourself to the food and drink over here to my right. I am told there is no space left in any refrigerator in a town building because of the number of parties they've been having for Carl this week. So please eat up. It can't go back to the buildings. We've put together a small program for Carl today, small. For those of you who have ever had the privilege of negotiating with Carl, let me just give you a little backstory on how this went. Carl announced his retirement Monday night at a Board of Selectmen's meeting. On Tuesday, I popped into his office and said, you know, we got to do a party. No. Okay, we have to do something. No. We really need to do something, Carl. No. Then I said, okay, what do you want? I want ice cream. So then I spoke to Kathy, who works in Carl's office and put most of this event, Kathy Severance, put most of this event together. Thank you, Kathy. And Kathy said, ice cream for Carl? Never. So then Carl said, okay, we can do it on Friday the 3rd at, in true Carl form, 4:30. For those of you who work for the town, you understand what that means. So basically using the same words that Carl and I used to convince a longtime former selectman that we needed to hold a party for him, we said, okay, it's not for you, it's for us. We need closure. And we want to celebrate you and what you've done for the town. Go home, talk to Maureen, talk to your family, and let me know. A week passes, nothing. 2 weeks pass, nothing. I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm like, so what about the party? Oh, yeah, that will work. And then in a meeting, we had set the time, and in a meeting, I forgot the time we set, so I extended the time by an hour. So he's just thrilled about that. Anyway. So this is going to be a short, small program, and the instructions that were given to all the speakers were, how many minutes? 2. Expect them to go over 2, and they should. Sorry, you're seated, you're captive now. So there are several people joining us today that we want to acknowledge from the Lexington Chamber of Commerce, their Executive Director, Melina Richards, and the President of the Chamber, Jim Shaw. From Hanscom Air Force Base, Colonel Ken Furland, Tom Fredericks, Chuck Paone, and Jessica Casserly. Representing the International City Managers Association, ICMA, an organization that is near and dear to Carl and Maureen. I believe that's where you both met. Patricia Vinchesny. From the Massachusetts Municipal Association, Denise Baker. Jeff Beckwith, their executive director, is unable to be here today. He left on a trip to Alaska yesterday. He swears that was planned long before you set your date. From the Massachusetts Municipal Managers Association, President Adam Chapdelaine, along with town managers, assistant town managers, town administrators, and assistant town administrators from all across the state. Our Lexington State House delegation, Representative Jay Kaufman, Senator Mike Barrett, and Senator Cindy Friedman. During his tenure here in Lexington, Carl worked with 3 different school superintendents. Superintendent Julie Hackett is here today, as is retired Superintendent Dr. Mary Chakowski. Retired Superintendent Dr. Paul Ash was unable to make it, but sends his best wishes. former members of the Board of Selectmen, Bob Sacco, Bill Daly, Dan Fenn, Don McKenna, Bill Kennedy, Richard Paget, Gene Krieger, George Burnell, Hank Mans, Norman Cohen, and Peter Kelly. And of that group, the majority of them did serve with him. However, several served before Carl came, a testament to his leadership. Before I introduce Carl's family, most of whom traveled from out of state to be here today, I want to say thank you to the Valente family on behalf of the town of Lexington and the citizens for sharing him with us. This has been a 24/7, 365 job for him, and he has taken it that seriously. And I apologize to Laura, she's not here, but he did email me from the wedding, before the wedding, that he's checking on something and said, my room's been taken over as the makeup room, so how is blah, blah, blah going in Lexington? I refused to answer. I waited 2 days before I answered. So joining us from Carl's family is Carl's brother Paul and his partner Marjorie, who traveled from Rhode Island, his sister Joanne and her husband John, who came from North Carolina, his sister Lorraine from Connecticut, his brother Mark and his wife Cheryl, who traveled from New Jersey. Carl's mom Elizabeth, who is now 95, was unable to travel from Connecticut today, but we want to recognize her as well. We thank you all for coming. From Carl's immediate family, his wife Maureen, his daughter Kate, his son-in-law Matt, and the apple of his eye, his grandson William, are here today. Carl's daughter Laura and her husband Nate live in Tonga, which on the board we have all learned is an island in the South Pacific. So they weren't able to be here today, but... Hi, Laura, can you hear us? Is she there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
So, Carl, do you want to talk to Laura?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, hello and welcome.
Okay. Hello and greetings from Tonga. Some of you all know, but Tonga is 18 hours ahead of Boston. So, Dad, I can say with confidence that you're going to enjoy your retirement.
And Laura, what's the lottery number I should play again? Since you...
Sorry, that's for me only. But on a serious note, Dad, congratulations on your retirement. It's a really special day, and I really wish I could be there. I'm really sorry to have missed it, but I will be home in 4 weeks to celebrate with you, which gives you plenty of time to make me Nana's spaghetti and meatballs and macaroni and cheese and all the things that I can't get here. And I can't wait to come home and celebrate with you, and I love you so much.
Thanks, Loie, and I've told them all the stories about what it's like to run a resort in a somewhat third world country. And how you have to bribe your staff with candy bars. So if it was only so easy to do that. Thanks, I'll give our best to Nate.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
All right. Bye, hon.
Bye, love you.
So thank you to Kathy Severance from Carl's office and Vince, our amazing AV technician, for making that all happen. So we're gonna move on to the program presentation, and at this point I'd like to call forward our first speaker, who is Colonel Ken Furland, the Deputy Commander of the 66th Air Base Group at Hanscom Air Force Base. Colonel Furland.
I didn't know it was going first. 2 minutes, right? So, Carl, I know that Colonel Hun wanted to be here, but as of 10 o'clock this morning, he is no longer the commander. Let me explain, he did not get fired. We had a change of command, and I know Colonel Ellsworth wanted to be here, but he has 60 people in his house right now, and he's cooking 2 pork shoulders, but also wanted to be here. But one thing they wanted to mention is that you've been an amazing neighbor, a friend, a confidant, and helpful associate for Hanscom Air Force Base. We got you a little something. Hopefully you don't have one, but if you have one, you can use it twice, and you'll probably figure it out. So if you want to come on up. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. There's a little. So Carl, thank you. On behalf of the men and women at Hanscom Air Force Base, thank you for all you've done for us.
It has an inscription from the Air Force, and we just bought a house that was 95, 97, so this will fit perfect.
Perfect.
And we'll probably still be using candles.
Great.
later.
Thanks,
Thank
Carl.
you.
Thanks for everything you've done. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'm Joe Pato, member of the board, and we are all very pleased to be here and sad that Carl is leaving. It's my good fortune to introduce those in the state legislature that will reflect on Carl's influence there. So I'd like to ask Representative Jay Kaufman, Senator Cindy Friedman, and Senator Mike Barrett to come forward.
Hey, all right. We're going to talk really fast. Carl, we want to present you with a citation from the State House. Carl has been an amazing, steady, holds his cards really close to his chest when you're talking to him, but an amazing partner. And I know that I speak for all of us. Like, I will really miss being able to call you up and just say what's going on in Lexington. But you have been an amazing steward of this town, and I think Lexington is just light years ahead for your wonderful stewardship. So thank you, and here is a citation. We have one more thing.
So you should know that the citation that we just gave Carl seriously violates one of the fundamental principles of American democracy, the separation of powers, in that I, as a member of the House, have signed a Senate citation. But we did this intentionally because we didn't want to have 2 essentially duplicate citations for you, Carl. So instead, I have something else to offer you, but I need some equipment. Would you don this, please? So some of you know that before entering public life, I thought I was going to have a career in higher ed, and decided that at occasional special moments, I was going to borrow some of the traditions from that world for this. And one of the things that I love the most about higher ed ceremonies is the honorary degrees. So we have an honorary degree here for Carl. So let me read it to you. Oh, first I should mention these hats. You know, you always have a hat and a tassel and all the rest of that. These are yellow in color, which is the color that's usually worn by the everyday worker. Red hats are worn by electricians, green hats by plumbers, white hats by supervisors, but this is for us common folk. And the tassel gets turned from the left to the right or the right to the left, depending on the political winds. So you can do with those as you see fit. By virtue of the powers vested in me and others I shamelessly assume, I, J.R. Kaufman, do hereby confer upon Carl F. Valente the honorary degree of Bachelor of Uncommon Sense. For 13 years, you have given joyfully and generously of yourself as town manager to the town of Lexington, and in countless ways helped make our community and our civic life so special and so vibrant. You have led us energetically and enthusiastically with apparent ease and grace, ever focused more on getting good results than on getting credit, ever a partner, a guide, an inspiration, a coalition builder, and a friend. Yours has been an empowering labor of love, a gift at once of your head, heart, and soul, committed to better governance, better policy, and better politics. The public square and our democracy are richer for your many and varied contributions and for your example and encouragement. You are truly an uncommon man, richly deserving of our thanks, our affection, and all the rights, privileges, responsibilities, and aggravations reserved for recipients of this decree. Thank you, Carl.
The Lexington delegation isn't saying precisely that this is solely in recognition of Carl's extraordinary service, but it bears mentioning that his retirement coincides this week with the approval of a state appropriation of $200,000 towards the reconstruction of the Lexington Visitor Center. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in a way, wants to expend, on behalf of the entire legislature, Carl, its thanks to you.
Thank you so much.
Do you want this?
Where's the entry?
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Lucenti. I'm one of the members of the board. So unlike local sports teams where if you're from a different town, you're a rival and you compete against each other, when it comes to managing a municipality, the teams from different towns actually work very closely and they get along and work toward common goals. As many of you know, Carl was earlier in his career the town manager in Needham. Today we are honored to have with us Kate Fitzpatrick, who is the current town manager in Needham, and she's a former president of the Massachusetts Municipal Managers Association and a colleague of Carl's who will say a few words. Please join me in welcoming Kate Fitzpatrick.
Thank you very much for letting me invite myself to be on your panel. I'm going to tell you 5 things you may not know about Carl Valente, my hero. Carl is a finance hero. Carl worked at a hardware store in his younger days. We gathered that this led to his lifelong interest in tinkering and gardening. It also resulted in a strong appreciation for the value of a dollar. Not to say he's cheap, although if the shoe fits, and the importance of financial stewardship. When he left Needham for Weston in 2001, Carl bequeathed me a 30-year-old radio from that hardware store. I later returned it to him, and if you ask, I bet he still has it. Yep. Carl is an ethics hero. He's a hero for those who do what is right, not what is easy. His career can be characterized by an unwavering ability to see the right course of action and to convince others to take it with him. His integrity, consistency, and insistence on the highest ethical standards gained the respect of staff and citizens. He created a strong sense of teamwork and a climate of cooperation that has and will continue after he leaves. Carl is a mentor hero. In the words of John Mather, a mentor enables a person to achieve, but a hero shows what achievement looks like. Carl Valente is the reason I'm here today. His influence on my success in local government cannot be overstated. He taught me the value of professional local government and had confidence in me when I maybe didn't. He encouraged me and a small cadre of strong leaders, mostly women, some of whom are related to him, by which I mean Kate, to step out of their comfort zones. I'm sure that many of these women and others who worked with Carl in the room today will relate to the following story. In one of my first months in Needham as town manager, by myself and frankly terrified, I called Carl up on a busy Friday afternoon and I said, "Do you have time to see me?" And he said, "Always." Carl is a Zen hero. He's preternaturally calm, he's never defensive and never displays anger. Those of you who know me will agree that he didn't succeed in all of his endeavors in mentoring me. Carl deserves a vacation. Adam and I were going to sing our rendition of Carl Valente's Going Home from the George Washington retirement scene in Hamilton, beginning with, "Whatever it is, Maureen started it." Alas, we thought better of it, but how better to celebrate Carl's retirement than turn to the person whose goodbye shaped a nation. And so a mashup of Lin-Manuel Miranda, Micah chapter 4, verse 4, and GW himself. "If I say goodbye, the nation learns to move on. It outlives me when I'm gone. Like the scripture says, everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. They'll be safe in the nation we've made. I hope you sit under your own vine and fig tree, Carl, but not only for a few months. We need our finance, ethics, mentor, and Zen hero's voice in whatever capacity you choose for yourself next.
Thank you, Kate. My name is Michelle Socolo, and I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen. And my next job is to call one of the speakers up who's going to speak on behalf of the MMMA. Before I do that, I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. I was shocked but not surprised at the number of managers who are here today. You all know who you are, but it's just so tremendous to see the outpouring of love and support for you. And I think that is really because of all of the mentoring you've done over so many years for so many managers. When I was in Hudson as the assistant town administrator, I served on the Mass Municipal Management Association as well, and I've been on the MMA board. And without a doubt, Carl, you are known as one of the best and finest in the field, and your colleagues speak so highly of you. So this is a difficult time for all of us to watch you retire, but we couldn't be happier for you and the things that you have ahead of you. So with that, I'm going to ask Adam Chapdelaine to come up and speak on behalf of the MMMA, the Mass Municipal Managers Association.
Thank you, Michelle. So, Carl, I don't have any props or gifts. As you know, Arlington has a very limited budget, but if we could maybe on your last day work out a deal for Lexington to buy the Great Meadows, we can see if we can figure something out. Maybe a plaque, or even maybe name a room after you in Arlington. So, on a serious note, both Susie and Michelle mentioned how many managers or administrators are here today, both active and retired. And I think it is a testament to what an impact you've had on the profession and on the association and on the state as a whole. So for everybody who's here who doesn't know who these managers and administrators are, can you raise your hand just to show how many folks are here today? I mean, and it bears reiterating, these are town managers, administrators, very busy people, at least the not retired ones. And they've made time to come here to Lexington today to see Carl. And again, I think that's a real testament to who Carl is and what Carl has meant to all of us who work in local government management. Not to repeat what Kate has said, but I really think Kate did such an eloquent job of expressing what Carl, I can certainly say, has meant to me. Just an outstanding example of adherence to the ICMA and the MMMA Code of Ethics, and teaching so many of the importance of adhering to that Code of Ethics in maintaining the integrity and credibility of local government and professional local government management. And probably most importantly to me, Kate also mentioned Carl's legacy in local government management, at least in the association, is going to be his mentorship. And just the total willingness to take anybody under his wing and help them achieve success in local government management. I can say that for myself. Carl has always been an open ear, willing to be a sounding board, listen to concerns I have, and try to help me along the way. And I've considered myself fortunate to have him as a colleague and friend. So, Carl, upon your retirement, congratulations. You really deserve all the accolades and more that you'll receive today. And I hope today's more of a see you later than a goodbye. So, congratulations.
So, one of my favorite quotes from President Lyndon Johnson is, "When the burdens of the presidency seem unusually heavy, I always remind myself it could be worse. I could be a mayor." So in many ways, the role of the town manager is the same thing as being like a mayor. And I do believe when it's done right, like Carl has done over the past 30 years as a town manager, it's one of the toughest jobs in the world. And to say a few words on behalf of the International City County Management Association, ICMA, please join me in welcoming the former town administrator of Scituate and the current Northeast Regional Director at ICMA, Patricia Vincezi.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel doubly privileged to be here because, as was mentioned, Carl and I were colleagues for over 31 years. I first met him in 1986 when I was the administrative assistant in Dunstable, and he worked for the Department of Revenue, and he came, and no surprise here, did a revenue forecasting and expenditure analysis for us. So, and I also met Maureen that same year, so they've been with me throughout my whole career. And in my new job as regional director for ICMA, it's my privilege to speak on behalf of the association and Carl because he represents the best tenets of our association, which is to enhance the quality of local government through professional management. And I can think of no better representative to represent our profession, not only in Massachusetts, but internationally through the ICMA, which, as Adam noted, bases its foundation on a strong code of ethics. And I'll just share with you that Carl and Maureen also had a family at ICMA, so I bear great wishes from Martha Perego and Ross Hoff and Rita Ozolinski. And I will say that Carl offered to be a reference for me when I applied for this job after I retired, and Martha Perego called and said, well, you used Carl as a reference, that's enough for me. So I think that sums them up, and it's my pleasure to present to you on behalf of ICMA lifetime membership in ICMA for your 40 years of local government service.
So we've heard that Carl puts in tremendous hours, 27 by 4, 24 by 7, and it isn't that many people who enjoy hearing on Sunday, let's get together and go over the spreadsheet. I do. I don't know about you, but there is someone here with whom I did join Carl on a number of occasions over the weekend to go over spreadsheets, and he was willing to come back from his hike on the Appalachian Trail. I asked him if that was true earlier or what I should say, and he said, whatever you want. So I'd like to introduce Rob Allison, who is a former member of the senior management team, who
Thank you, everybody. You're going to hear some repeated themes here, but I think they bear repeating. If my memory serves me well, in the winter of 05-06, I got a call from Carl asking if I'd be interested in applying for the position of finance director here in Lexington. We met for lunch, and he gave me his pitch. A place steeped in our nation's history, energetic, elected, and appointed officials who were dedicated to the mission of municipal government, residents with a history of public participation in town affairs, as evidenced by their commitment to town meeting form of government and their willingness to serve in many volunteer capacities. I listened and we parted. I told him I'd think about it. In the end, it wasn't his salesmanship that convinced me to apply, though my experience in Lexington ultimately confirmed all those attributes of the town that he touted when we met. But rather it was my knowledge of and experience with the salesman. You see, I had worked for Carl for a short stint, about a year in the 80s at the Department of Revenue, and then as his finance director in Needham for about 6 years. And it is there that I was introduced to those qualities that I think you all will recognize that make him the effective leader that he is, and one that his profession will sorely miss. Time won't permit me to describe them all, but here are some of the qualities that, in my opinion, have made Carl a successful manager and a successful leader. Commitment to public service. If you know Carl, there was never any doubt of this. He is a firm believer in the notion that municipal government is where the action is and where we have the best opportunity to, as he often said and says, to make a difference in people's lives. And with its daily interactions with citizens, local government is where the excitement and challenge lay, and that attitude was infectious and motivating for me, and I think you would find a similar sentiment from his senior staff, past and present, and other members of the organization, and other members in this audience as well. Data-driven, no alternative facts. This commitment to data-based decision-making was one of the cornerstones of his credibility, which, in my experience, is a key element of effectiveness of anyone in a position of authority. Though not from Missouri, you always knew that Carl wanted you to show facts and data to support any proposal or presentation. Accordingly, he motivated me to be prepared whenever I sat down with him. If not, I would be sent packing in his inimitable, gentle fashion. But you knew you better get your act together the next time around. A hard worker. I don't even think this comes close to describing him. More appropriate would be hardest worker. I think of the many, many times at the end of a day when I would sit with him and look at his red-rimmed eyes, evidence of the crushing long hours he put in and week out. And it was this clear evidence of how hard he worked, with never a complaint, that I found so motivating. He led by example, which motivated me to push myself a little more in turn. Ethics and integrity. You've heard from others, and again, I think it bears repeating. Carl displayed the highest ethical standards and unflagging integrity, and he clearly communicated this throughout the organization, setting the tone for how people should and needed to conduct themselves when performing the town's business. Empathy and unflappability. I learned early in my career that if you mess up, fess up. Unlike others who would take you to task and more for your errors, in my experience, Carl never did that, would never throw you under the bus. I can think of one particular case, which we talked about briefly a moment ago with Senator Friedman, a minor error of mine to the tune of $500,000 that literally required an act of the legislature to fix. When, with great apprehension, I poked my head in his door to deliver the bad news, after listening quietly, he simply said, in his inimitable fashion, "Okay, what do we need to do to fix it?" That's Carl, understanding, empathetic, and unflappable. That's one way in which he showed loyalty to those who worked for him and how he fostered loyalty in them. As I said, my list could go on, and I think I've exceeded my 2 minutes, Susie, so I apologize for that. My list could go on, and in short, to quote an expert on leadership, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. That's Carl. Carl, while I highly recommend retirement, one of the things I have missed is the daily interactions with all the dedicated employees in Lexington, particularly, and most notably you, which made my tenure in Lexington so much more than just work. It made it challenging, stimulating, and memorable. So I thank you for your friendship and your collegiality over the years, and wish you but the very best for you and Maureen in the years to come.
Thank you, Rob. It's probably a good thing that Kathy and Susie put together a very careful and scripted agenda, because if they had not, I think we would all be here all day and all night, as I know there are many members of the senior management team who would have wanted to speak. But our next speaker is going to speak on their behalf, Dave Pinsino, the Director of DPW.
So first off, I want to just thank Carl he's always been a supporter of staff, but especially DPW. It's not easy when you get a town manager that's worrying about all these other things that can know, water breaks and know the tree trimming and know all of these things that we do and then support that. So I know everybody at our building and that you've worked through the years at DPW appreciates that. So I was hired in 2000, so I've been here for a little while, And when Carl was hired in 2005, I think it was at a point when the town was really at a crossroads. We had had a failed override the previous year. There was a lot of uncertainty and questions with staff and the residents, and lo and behold, enter Carl. Carl Valente, who from day one brought a high degree of professionalism to the job. And I don't speak about just how he dresses. He's always a suit and tie guy. And he gets me to wear a tie every now and again, so that's good. But, and he was spotted. I thought we would have the picture, but he had a polo shirt on to work the other day, so we knew he was nearing retirement. But it's not just that, his professionalism. It was in his approach, and it really came out in other ways that he both dealt with the public and with the staff. His calm demeanor. No matter how hard we tried, he never got wound up. So, and we always thought that, you know, maybe he's that duck that you see that's nice and calm on the surface but paddling hard underneath, but I don't think he was that either. So he was always pretty collected. His thoughtfulness. Whenever you were at a meeting with him, you would, you know, make a comment, and then there'd be this long pause. And he was really thinking about, you know, how that was going to play or what he needed to say. And, you know, you were tempted to fill that space, but we learned very early, just sit there and be quiet, don't fill that space. But definitely his thoughtfulness. And, you know, really his integrity. You know, and it's something that he came to work with every day. And it could have been the minor thing, you know, a 1 in a million chance that something could be a little bit off, and Carl would kind of guide you in a different direction, and just saying that's not really where we want to go. But that high degree of integrity that he brought to the position every day. He was also a big person on let me know about things, which we appreciated because we wanted the same thing, let us know about things, and he did. So we weren't surprised and he wasn't surprised. The other thing with Carl is the respect factor, and he always viewed respect as a two-way street. It wasn't just us respecting the position he was in, but he really took the time to learn and respect and appreciate the knowledge and the things that staff could bring to the table to help better the town, so that we felt like part of the team and that we could contribute. So he really supported that. The staff support, it's been mentioned. You know, I haven't worked for a manager that, you know, you want to go and be involved in this professional board, go do that. That's a good thing for you and the community. You want to go to, you know, one of these conferences, go and do that because you'll learn things there that you can come back and bring to the community. And it was really, you know, I mean, as long as, you know, it wasn't in Las Vegas or, you know, I wasn't going to the MLB meetings or something. It was really appreciated and appropriate for that. So he really was a mentor to us in really getting us to see the bigger picture because, you know, our own department, sometimes that's all we can focus on. He had to look at the entire town and how did what we brought forward fit with that, and then seeing how we can work that in. So he worked diligently with staff and residents, really, we think, to make Lexington a better place. And although he oversaw, as you know, Rob mentioned, you know, millions of dollars in capital projects, operating budgets, you know, all those other things, it was really, he took the time to empower staff and citizens. And by the way, all those capital projects are finally getting Carl a fountain. We're going to be doing that in the next year or so. We're at the Battle Green. He's always wanted a water feature since he started, so we finally are going to do that at the Hayes Fountain on the Battle Green, so I'll have to invite you back for that. So I think Carl has really set up both the residents and the staff to build consensus, to find solutions, and to keep this town moving in a very forward and positive direction. And for that, we appreciate your efforts on that on our behalf. We would have something for him, but you know, being a budget guy, he did not approve our program improvement. So we're working on collecting something for him at a later date. So again, Carl, just thanks for being a leader, a mentor, and really a friend, and we wish you a happy and healthy retirement.
So I just said to Joe, deep breath, no tears. Here we go. I have to say, writing this speech for today has been a lot harder than I ever anticipated. Carl confided in me a bit earlier than he let everyone know publicly that he was retiring. So I've been dealing with this. I had to deal with that for quite a while. As I told him, it's the longest secret I have ever kept in my life. And if my family, and one of them is here today, knows I'm not very good at keeping secrets. Anyway, so I've had hundreds of versions, literally hundreds of versions of what to say today going around in my head. Say this, no, say that, talk about this, no, talk about that. Be sure to include this, don't forget that. And then at one point I went, wait a minute, he's not dead. This isn't his funeral. He's just retiring. But how do I capture the thanks and gratitude of a community of 32,000 plus in 2 minutes or less about an ethical, respectful professional who does what he loves and loves what he does? So Carl, on behalf of the board and the community, I want to express our thanks and appreciation for your 13 years of service to the town of Lexington. The work that you have done has touched the lives of not only our 32,000 citizens, but also of those who work and visit here. And for over 4,700 days, I don't have the exact number, I'm sure you do, because you count all these things, you have always conducted yourself in the business of the town with the utmost professionalism, integrity, and ethical standards, which is something I feel can't be taught in a class or learned from a book, but it's instilled in you from an early age. So thank you to your parents, your family, and your mentors for that. During your tenure, you put the town back on firm financial standing, working hard with staff to restore and maintain our AAA bond rating, and we are very grateful for that. You have been one who sweats the details, no matter how large or how small. Sitting next to you at town meeting, I see what meticulous notes you take. After the budget passed, I leaned over and said, congratulations, the budget passed. You can exhale. No, I can't. Town meeting's not over yet. They haven't approved everything. And that is evident in your work and in the work of your staff. The work you have done has never been about you. You have always conducted yourself in a manner where what is important to the community is your guide, not what is important solely to you. Over the years, you've spoken often that President Kennedy's call to public service sparked your interest in serving. And I feel it's appropriate to quote from his farewell speech to Massachusetts in 1961 after his election to the presidency. Quote, "For those to whom much is given, much is required. And when at some future date the High Court of History sits in judgment on each of us, recording whether in our brief span of service we fulfilled our responsibilities to the state, our success or failure, in whatever office we may hold, will be measured by the answers to 4 questions. First, were we truly men of courage, with the courage to stand up to one's enemies, and the courage to stand up when necessary to one's associates, the courage to resist public pressure as well as private greed? Second, were we truly men of judgment, with perceptive judgment of the future as well as the past, with enough wisdom to know that we do not know, enough candor to admit it? Third, were we truly men of integrity, men who never ran out on either the principles in which they believed or the people who believed in them, men who believed in us, men who neither financial gain nor political ambition could ever divert from the fulfillment of our sacred trust? Finally, were we truly men of dedication, with an honor mortgaged to no single individual or group and compromised by no private obligation or aim, but devoted solely to serving the public good and the national interest? Courage, judgment, integrity, dedication. These are the historic qualities of the Bay Colony and the Bay State. I can easily say that courage, judgment, integrity, and dedication are the qualities by which you have conducted your life of public service, and thank you. So on behalf of the board, we wish you all the best in retirement. We hope you will travel. We hope you will sleep late. We hope you will go to bed early. In Maureen, we have spoken to the officials in Newton. They will block any type of streaming of LexMedia so he cannot secretly watch us. And we hope you never, ever, ever have to attend another meeting in your life. All the best to you. If the board will come up and join me, this is now time for presentation of the gifts, of which we have 4. And because of Carl, as we've all spoken about, being who he is, it's very hard to surprise him. And we also didn't want to violate open meeting law, that pesky little thing. So the first is Joe will present some books to Carl from the library.
Thank you. Carl, the library has offered 3 books given in your honor, Carl Valente, the town manager, from 2005 to 2018, by the Board of Trustees, the Friends, the Foundation Board, the staff of Cary Memorial Library, with our appreciation for your service. And just so everybody can see, there's one on Lexington and Concord because, of course. There's one on baking bread because we know you wonder how he got rid of some of that stress. Bread. And my chickens and I. There is a story here. I'm chicken, so I'm not going to go into it. Carl, congratulations. Thank you.
So this next gift is really kind of fun. It is a photograph, and before I turn it around, it is taken by one of our town meeting members who makes a habit of taking photographs on a regular basis of our Minuteman here in Lexington in all sorts of different weather and rain and snow and during sunsets, and it's just a beautiful thing. But what also makes this picture special is that it's signed by the members of the Board of Selectmen, current and past. And when you hang it in your home somewhere or wherever you want to hide this photo, I hope you think of us and perhaps remember that, yes, in Lexington, even to restore the statue, we create an ad hoc committee to study the problem. So I hope it'll bring you some humor and some laughs and some fondness since it is such an important and iconic piece of our history. It was Dinesh Patel that took the photograph. I don't know if I mentioned his name, but he's really quite a photographer.
So the next item is, I'll talk about in a minute, but it's been an honor. I just wanted to mention it's been an honor and a privilege to work with Carl over the past year and a half as on the Board of Selectmen. Personally, he's taught me so many lessons about municipal government, but more importantly, he's really inspired me in ways I did not expect when I became selectman, and one of those is about being patient, being relentlessly dedicated to something and committed, and to always remain calm under pressure. He's excellent at that. So on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the citizens of Lexington, we want to present you with a flag which has been flown over the battle green. The inscription here says, presented to Town Manager Carl Valente in recognition of his service and dedication to the town of Lexington 2005 to 2018. There you go. And it comes with a certificate of authenticity in case anyone doubts that it's real. This American flag is presented to Carl Valente in recognition of his dedication to the town of Lexington as town manager for 13 years. This is to certify that on July 27, 2018, the town of Lexington, Massachusetts flew this American flag over the Lexington Battle Green, the birthplace of American liberty, and the site of America's oldest war memorial, where the Lexington Minutemen militia confronted the British Army on April 19, 1775. And the opening shots of the American Revolution. Real.
And so for our final gift for Carl this evening, for those of you who have come to retirement ceremonies for staff in the past, might be saying there's no chair. We typically award the person with a chair with the town seal on it. However, we checked with Maureen, and she said, no furniture. We're downsizing. We're moving. No furniture. So that's why there's no chair. Okay. So we decided we had to get creative. What could we do for Carl? Because you have meant so... Can you stand over there? Thank you. I still get to do this for like, I don't know, 24 more hours. Not even 24 more hours, but you'll probably still be here at 5:30 tomorrow. What can we do? We want to do something that's significant, that makes an impact, that really reaches him and means a lot, not only to him, but to us in the community. So the Board of Selectmen at our last meeting, we established the Carl F. and Maureen G. Valente Public Service Fund for internships and educational programs associated with a career in public administration. Carl was incredibly touched when we told him we wanted to do this, and so he and Maureen actually wrote what the qualifications for this award are. So the fund has been created to assist those interested in a career of public service by offering a paid internship in a municipal department of the town or graduate study in public administration. Carl and Maureen Valente's careers were devoted to local government in Massachusetts. They were strong believers in mentoring and coaching young professionals, as they were both the beneficiaries of such mentoring. Both worked for the town of Lexington at different times during their 40-year career. For many young professionals interested in a career in local government, an internship can be an entryway to that first position. The purpose of this fund is to provide paid internship opportunities, or for individuals working in local government, financial assistance towards a graduate degree in public administration or a related field. The fund will be managed by the trustees of the Public Trust, and it will be expended in 5 years or in 5 disbursements. One part of this fund, the use of the fund that was very important to Carl and Maureen, is that preference on the use of the fund will be given to women and individuals who are otherwise underrepresented in Lexington's municipal workforce. So on the tables and out in the lobby, you will find these lovely blue cards that talk about the fund, and should you be interested, it has information on it for you. So we're truly honored to give that to you, and we look forward to awarding that in the future. And just one final note from the board before we sit down and hand the microphone over to you for what most likely will be the last time, because we officially cannot post another meeting for you to speak at. That time has passed. We truly want to thank you for your dedication and your commitment to the town. You have spoken frequently about the fact that you have felt very welcome here and that part of the family. You are part of the family. Today is almost like, I thought about this, it's almost like, you know, your kid goes all the way through school and then heads off to college. So 13 years, very similar. It's like he's going off to college. Now, Carl's going off to retirement, a well-earned, well-deserved retirement, time spent with Maureen and his family and William, who is truly the apple of his eye, and we wish you all the best. We hope you will come back and visit, and we will try not to call you too often. So.
So this is just wonderful. Thank you all for coming, and for everybody who spoke. Exactly who you're talking about, because it didn't sound like me. Anybody who's heard my remarks at other retirement receptions or employee events know I usually speak about the importance of family. And those of us who work here for the town, to me, is a very special part of a town government family. Well, my other family's also here today, except for my mom. So let me tell you a bit about them, as they've had such an important influence in who I am, both professionally and personally. So my dad passed away in 1992, and my mom is almost 96 years old. Boy, I hope I have her genes. My dad owned a small retail business that taught me a lot about, and he taught me a lot about the process of government, the importance of having factual information and data, being analytical, organized, and making decisions with your head. That was my dad. My mom, on the other hand, always stressed the importance of being kind and respectful of others. She also had a wicked sense of humor, and even to this day. and she taught me the importance of making decisions with my heart. To this day, I remember both of their lessons, using my head and my heart in serving the residents of Lexington and the other towns I have served. Also here today is my older brother and sister and my younger brother and sister. So yes, I'm the middle child. You know, for those of you who are middle children, know what that means. So my younger brother, Mark, and his wife, Cheryl, are here. They're both physical therapists. Like my dad, they own a small business, a physical therapy practice in southern New Jersey. So certainly my empathy for small businesses comes from what I've learned from my dad and my brother Mark and his wife, running a business, hiring staff, and for my brother-in-law, my brother and his wife, being in healthcare, its own type of nightmare. My younger sister, Joanne, and her husband, John, are here. Joanne works in human resources for a hospital in Wilmington, North Carolina, and John is retired from United Technologies, smart man. For all of you who have worked in an organization and think you have bizarre employee stories, they take a backseat to what my sister Joanne has experienced. Just one to tell you, there was the candidate she was recruiting who wanted to know if the hospital's travel and accommodations for the interview would allow them to bring their pet to the interview. I can say I've never had that type of experience. And my older sister, Lorraine, is here. Her career was as a public school elementary teacher, although she thinks that she's the assistant town manager in Lexington because of all the advice he has provided me, whether I've asked for it or not. And finally, my older brother and his Paul and his partner Marjorie are here. And they're both counselors. Paul's an LICSW and Marjorie a PhD in psychology. So yes, I keep them both on my speed dial on my phone. So Susie said something earlier, which is actually something very similar to my brother said, and you'll hear this in a minute. So I told my brother Paul about this reception was making me anxious. I prefer not to be the center of attention. So he told me, he gave me some rather unusual advice. So he told me that today, I should just imagine that I'm at my own wake. What? So he said, imagine that you're dead and you're at your own wake. So now I was really feeling anxious until he told me why. He said, like at your wake, he said, you're the reason everybody's here, but they really don't expect you to say too much. So great advice, Paul. Mostly what I'd like to talk about this afternoon in just a few minutes is my 13 years of Lexington and in the career in public service. I've told many of you how much I've enjoyed my profession and best of all, working in Lexington. But that being said, to be honest with you, Lexington was not the best decision I've ever made. It's actually number 4 on the list. The third best decision was being the grandparent of our grandson William. Well, it exactly wasn't my decision, but I still have some claim in that role. The second best decision was having our 2 daughters, Kate, who's here, and Laura, who you heard earlier, and their wonderful husbands, Matt and Nathan. When our 2 daughters were in school, they stopped going to the grocery shopping with me because there would always be a Lexington resident I would see at the Stop and Shop or the Market Basket who had some issue they'd want to talk about, usually when we were in the frozen food section. And both mom and dad were town managers. My wife Maureen, a long-serving town manager in the town of Sudbury. And our younger daughter Laura, who again now lives in the South Pacific on the island of Tonga, used to say to her friends in high school that she was writing a book titled, my so-called parents. Because Maureen and I were really home at the same time, and Laura felt that she raised herself and her sister Kate. But the number one best decision was meeting and marrying my wife, Maureen. We worked in the same organization, and it took me 9 months of planning before I asked her out for the first time. But I knew on that first date I would marry her. And because she was also a town manager during her career, it was like having a built-in management consultant. And in fact, and this is true, one of the members of the Board of Selectmen that hired me in Lexington told me afterwards that they selected me because they felt they were getting 2 managers for the price of 1. So regardless, she means everything to me, and I love her like crazy. There are so many people I've worked with in Lexington that I wish I could recognize. But I keep telling myself, this is my wake, so keep it short, Carl. But a number of my colleagues from other towns are here, as well as staff from the Mass Municipal Association. And I can best describe them as my personal board of directors. Over the years, I've called on you for your advice and counsel on so many occasions. At our monthly meetings and conferences, you were always the voice of reason as I struggled with one issue or another. When you're a town manager, there are not many people who understand your work, but other town managers do understand the difficult challenges we face every day. And when I asked for their advice, they were giving of their time and totally honest with me. My colleagues have been a huge part of my career, and thank you all for coming. I've also worked with a simply amazing and talented management team that included police chiefs Chris Casey and Mark Coor, library directors Connie Rawson and Corin Stembridge, Human Services Director Charlotte Rogers, Public Works Director Bill Hadley and Dave Pinsino, Assistant Town Manager for Development Carol Kowalski, Planning Director Mary Ann McCall Taylor, and Community Development Director Karen Mullins. Facilities Directors Pat Goddard and Mike Cronin, Recreation Directors Karen Simmons and Melissa Petit, Chief Information Officers Donna Hooper and Tom Case, the Assistant to the Town Manager Candy McLaughlin, Human Resources Directors Denise Casey and Ian Costas, Fire Chiefs Bill Minimus and John Wilson, Assistant Town Managers for Finance Rob Adelson and Carolyn Kosnoff, and my Assistant Town Managers Linda Vine and Kelly Axtell. As part of their roles as department managers, I asked each of them if they would assist me in running the town because there was no way I could do it on my own. And that is just what they did. I cannot tell you how much I've learned from each of them, benefiting from both their passion for public service and their incredible work ethic. Lexington has been well served by them. Each of the senior managers is backed up by an equally impressive middle management team. It's the middle managers who oversee the day-to-day operations of the town. They are bright, energetic, and willing to try new ideas. And each of them have pushed me to be better in my role. I also had the opportunity to work with 3 superintendents of schools, Paul Ash. Paul and I started in Lexington a week apart in 2005. Mary Chakowski, who was both my confidant as well as a colleague, and more recently, Julie Hackett, who I predict will be an educational superstar, just as her predecessors were. Okay, almost done. Remember, I had 13 years here. So one of the best parts in working in Lexington are the many boards and committees I was able to work with. There is no challenge too big or no matter too small for our boards and committees. Global warming, no problem. Bicycle-friendly community, they are on it. Our board and committee members and town meeting members are smart, they're passionate, and they kept me on my toes. As a community, we could never afford the expertise we receive from all of the volunteers that serve on the various boards. And there are no shrieking violets there. But having that challenge is part of the adventure of working in Lexington. And from my first day in Lexington to today, you made me feel as a part of the Lexington family, and I thank you for that. The staff in the town manager's office and selectman's office have also been second to none and basically kept me from screwing up. In the selectman's office, Kim and Morgan, and before them, Lynn, Diane, and Lori. And in the manager's office, Sylvia and Tina in human resources, who were preceded by Brian and Claudia, and Rajan, our management fellow, who was preceded by Claire, Melissa, Michelle, Brianna, Gavin, Steve, Tom, and Cary. And Marie and Kathy, the office managers. So when Marie and Kathy, if they weren't in the office, I should probably just go home for the day because functioning without them was nearly impossible for me. Lastly, I work with 12 selectmen in my 13 years here. The board that hired me, that took the chance on bringing me to Lexington, include Gene Krieger, Norman Cohen, Hank Mance, Richard Paget, and Peter Kelly. I also work with George Brunel and Deb Mauger. That brings me to today's board. Susie Berry, Michelle Sokola, Joe Pato, Doug Lucente, and Jill Hay. So basically, I work with a group of 12 overachievers. And let me tell you something about these 12 selectmen. Other than their spouses, few residents will ever realize or appreciate the dedication each of these selectmen have for Lexington and their tireless effort in this regard. They aren't on the board for the accolades because mostly what they hear are the complaints, rarely the thanks. And they're certainly not serving on the board for the money because they receive no compensation. They do it because they care about the people in Lexington and want to make it a better place. There's a quote I'm fond of by Jim Collins. Jim Collins is a former Stanford Business School professor and author of the book, Good to Great. And I think it describes the selectmen I've worked with. Collins said, "Greatness requires endless change and adaptation while preserving core values and purpose." Greatness requires endless change and adaptation while preserving core values and purpose. That has certainly been the selectmen I've known here in Lexington, and it's been an honor to work with them these past 13 years. There are so many more of you that I'd like to recognize, but hope will you allow me to do that more personally before you leave today. Thank you all for taking the time this afternoon to attend my wake, helping me bring some closure to a career I've enjoyed so much in a community as wonderful as Lexington.
So we want to thank you all for coming today and helping us celebrate Carl and his work, not only to Lexington, but to Weston, to Needham, at the Department of Revenue and at the ICMA. We have the room for a bit longer. There is plenty of food, but before you go, there are some people we do need to thank. From the town manager's office, Kathy Severance. Kathy, come on over. Tina Porto. Ann Costas. From the selectman's office, Morgan Steele. From the manager's office, Sylvia. Our assistant town manager, Kelly Axtell. And from the selectman's office, Kim Katzenbach. These incredible women are what keep the manager's office running and keep the Board of Selectmen in line, and we are so grateful for all the work that they have done in putting today's celebration together. There is plenty of food, plenty of drink. Please eat up and drink. There's no room in the town hall refrigerator, so you got to eat it all. Carl will be here if you want to come up and greet him, and thank you so much for coming, and have a great night.